Welcome to Sfera Talks. Our guests are real people who live among us. And today our guest is Amin. Hello.
Hi Sergey, my name is Amin. I'm happy to have you. I'm happy to be here. Actually, when my parents gave birth to me, they gave me a sentence of a name, which is Aminkeng Atabong Alemanji. But I always like using the short form because it's easier for people to remember and for people to grasp.
Tell a few words about yourself.
I'm a black male scholar in Finland. I moved to Finland 12 years ago to study a master's program at the University of Oulu. That's a master's in education and globalization. And after that, I moved to Helsinki, did some work as a cleaner, dishwasher, and not pleased with work as a cleaner and dishwasher, I enrolled into a PhD program. When I enrolled into that PhD program, I didn't have funding. So it was like a it was like I didn't have funding to do the PhD. So it was a self-funded program. I had to find ways to make ends meet. I struggled and got some substituting teaching gigs in some different schools around Helsinki and Espoo region. Did my PhD in 4 years. After my PhD, I did a postdoc at the University of Turku, and then I moved over to Tampere University of Technology, where I worked. I taught one course, and then after that, I moved to Turku, where I'm presently working as the head of the master's program in social exclusion and as a university teacher as well in the same subject.
Yeah. You said 12 years ago you moved to Finland.
Yes.
From where?
From Cameroon.
Cameroon?
Yes, I moved to Finland from Cameroon. It was very interesting because that was kind of my first time going abroad. It was my first time in Europe, actually, and you can imagine moving from the equator.
I cannot imagine that.
To the North Pole. I mean, it's too. I moved from a place where it was the sun rises at 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. and sets at 6 a.m.
Always, right?
Always.
It's 12 and 12.
Yes, 12 and 12.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Finland, the first thing I was told was, the first thing I realized was I moved in September that the days were longer. I mean, that it was 7 o'clock, 8 p.m. And there was still light. I'm like, what's going on in this country? Where am I? And then one of my lecturers told me that, don't worry, enjoy the sun.
Till you can see it.
There's gonna come a time when you won't have sun. I'm like, no, the sun's always gonna be there. It's 6 to 6. And she was like, anyway, don't worry, it's gonna come. Just enjoy it. And then the darkness came in October. I'm like, what's going on? What's really going on? I was really amazed. And even before the darkness came, around the same time when the darkness came, I was asked to change the time. We don't change the time. All my life growing up, time is something that you don't change. You don't change the clock. And we asked to move the clock. I'm like, why do we have to move the clock? So why do we have to change the time? And so all of these things were kind of my first culture shocks into Finland, and it was very exciting times.
Exciting in good sense or in bad sense?
Both. Exciting because I had to experience something which was it was like in the movies. It was like something that if I called my parents and tell them this, do you know that this was going on? They would say, no, you're kidding me. You're kidding me, But so it was exciting in that sense that these were things that I had never experienced before. I remember the first time when I saw snow. It was like.
So your first time in your life you saw snow here?
Here, yes, I felt snow. I was actually in a train going to Coca-Cola. And it started snowing. The train stopped somewhere in between. I had to leave the train just to go outside, just to feel the snow for 1 minute before running back into the train to continue my journey.
What did you feel then? What was snow like for you?
It was for me, I just can't describe it. It's just that feeling that something that you've been seeing in the movies, something that you've been seeing. It was something that it's like something that you never believed you could ever experience. So then there you were in the middle of it, having that experience, and it was, I can't really describe it, but it was exciting in a sense to be in those moments. It was exciting, for example, to touch the snow, to be in the snow. It was exciting to go to Finnish sauna, to experience Finnish sauna. And it was exciting. I had lots of exciting moments when I came, because, for example, I learned how to ride a bike in Oulu. So before I came to Finland, I didn't know how to ride a bike. I didn't need to know. I didn't need that skill. When I came to Oulu, the first thing one of my friends told me was that you would learn how to ride a bike, because here, everyone uses the bike. A bicycle. So I'm like, okay. So imagine me trying and learning how to ride the bike. I'm a grown-up man, and I'm an adult, and there are young youths and young boys riding past, and they're just laughing, and they can't believe their eyes that an adult doesn't know how to ride a bike. So it was this. So this was some of the exciting things I meant that I experienced during the first year.
But this snow, I'm like, was it a friendly, when we went out of the train and it's snow and you've never seen snow before, was it a friendly experience, like, that you liked it? It's something that...
Definitely I liked it. It was a joyful experience, because it was really joyful. I mean, it was like, because snow, growing up, was the symbol of snow. It was purity. Western meant better, good, inferior, superior. So snow, just being in the snow, experiencing it kind of symbolizes everything that has to do with being in the West. So it was positive. I really liked it.
Because I can also recollect that when we this summer went to the north of Norway, and in June, when here it was plus 30, in Norway it was like in the south, in the north of Norway it was like plus 8, and there were patches of snow, and it was like, wow, you want to go and to play snowballs. It's snow in June. It's like amazing.
And I think one of the things about that first year was that it was really eye-opening here for me. I came to Finland in September, and in March we had to go to Iceland to visit Iceland. It was also very exciting to see something else, not just Finland, but to see to visit the Blue Lagoon, to visit the glacier, something that I saw I read in geography books, and to come back to Finland, to see Finland again from a different perspective. I mean, that first year was really like, I enjoyed my first year in Finland.
If we go back to your life in Cameroon, what was it like?
I was born in a town called Limbe. It's a town in the southwestern part of Cameroon. It's an English-speaking section. Because Cameroon has we have two different languages, English and French. So I was born in the English side of an English-speaking town. I studied all my life in English. The town is next to the coast, so basically there was a lot of fishing activities, swimming by the sea, and all of those activities. And my parents were not really that rich. They were poor, middle-class people. Went through school, went to the university. After my university, I was like, no, I don't want to. I just felt like I just needed something else. I felt like I needed a place. I needed a different experience. I didn't want to continue studying in Cameroon. I wanted to study in a place where I could study and work, and also not be able to provide for my family. I didn't want to be continuously relying on them. And so I made up my mind that I was going to travel abroad to study, and I started checking opportunities to come abroad. Online, and there was Finland and Sweden, which offered free education at that time.
So it was 12 years ago. It was 2008.
Yeah, 2008. Yes. But I was doing this session about 2007. I was doing this session about 2007, testing what are the opportunities out there for me. I think the reason why I came to Finland was not because I loved Finland, but because I could study tuition free at that time. So when I growing up, Finland wasn't part of my reality. No, the West or abroad was America. Next to America, the UK. That was what we consider as going abroad, or even Germany for some people. So, but Finland, I never heard about Finland until I started looking for tuition-free locations in Europe. That's the first time when I really read, oh, there's a country like Finland. And then I applied. So I had two choices. I had to choose between coming to Finland or going to Sweden. And for some reasons, I chose Finland.
Do you remember those reasons? Because Sweden and Finland, there is some...
I don't know why. I think
Why Finland was better for you?
Finland, I think, they had a program that I really wanted. You know, there were two programs in education at that time. There was education and leadership at the University of Jyväskylä, and also an education and globalization in Oulu. Those were two programs I really loved. I wanted to study. But then I looked at the program and realized that there was a course called Education and Leadership at the University of Oulu. So I could study leadership as well in the Oulu program. That's why I chose Oulu and not Jyväskylä.
Okay.
And the reason why I chose Finland, like I said, was because it was tuition free. And the reason why I chose Finland over Sweden was, I can't really say, because I didn't really, I don't know, I was somehow attracted to Finland for some reason. I loved that particular program. That program kind of called me. Yeah. It had this thing that said, come here.
Okay, we'll return to that. But in Cameroon, you said USA, UK, Germany.
Yeah.
What in Cameroon people think about Russia? Soviet Union, Russia?
Not really. We don't. It's not a destination. People don't grow up thinking or looking at Russia as a destination.
Yeah.
No, there are some people who go there, but they are not. It's not a popular destination for people growing up in Cameroon. I know of a few people. I know of one person who was a doctor who lived somewhere around the neighborhood who traveled to Russia to study to become a doctor. And for that, because of that, I got to know of Russia as a good destination to study to become a doctor.
That's medical doctor.
Medical doctor. That's what I knew of Russia.
Yeah.
Besides that, no.
Yeah. Okay, returning to it, Oulu attracted you more. You said you wanted to learn also leadership. Why?
Yes. You know, I wasn't sure what I was going to do after that master's program, so I wanted to have at least skills that would open up doors for me post my master's. Yeah. So I was thinking that I was looking at the courses offered by University of Oulu in that master's program in education and globalization. I felt like there was much more. And also one of the things that also attracted me to that particular program was that I didn't need to write I didn't need to submit any English language tests. So I didn't have to do TOEFL or IELTS. So it was also a cheaper option for me. Because in the other schools I had to do a TOEFL, submit the TOEFL results or an IELTS results. But although they had this system that they could interview you and test your English language aptitude just based on the interview. And I'm like, good. So it was a cheaper option for me, and I loved the admission process. So it was more friendly.
When you first arrived in the airport, how was it? I mean, like you came out of the airplane, completely new country.
Yeah.
What was it like?
At that time, 2008, Finland was still a very attractive country for students who coming from different parts of Africa. And I left Cameroon alone. Before I came to Finland, where the last transit was in Amsterdam. I discovered four other students who were coming to study in Finland. There was one who was coming to study in that program in education and leadership in Jyväskylä. And there were also 5 others. I know all 5 of them. We were all together, and we were like, "Where are you going to?" "I'm going to Finland." What are you going to do?" "I'm going to study this. I'm going to study this." Where are you going to? Which is the city? So we kind of had this discussion. So before I got to Finland, I already had 4 people in the plane traveling with me from Cameroon, going to Finland to study. My plane, when we came out from Helsinki Vantaa Airport, they had people waiting for them already to pick them up. I had a friend also here in Helsinki waiting for me to pick me up. who came to pick me up, but he wasn't there on time. So I was there, waited for him. He came in, and we kind of drove home to his place. And during that drive between the airport and his house, he lived in Lintuvara in Espoo. Yeah. That ride was a very critical ride for me. Mm-hmm. So I learned a lot during that ride.
How many minutes were it?
It was like 15 minutes.
15?
Things I learned on that ride.
Yeah.
I learned about Finland. What happened?
Yeah.
During that ride, they told me, welcome to Finland. Look around. I looked around, all trees. The Europe I knew, the picture of Europe I knew was Europe where you had skyscrapers everywhere. Yeah. Not trees. Mm-hmm. Where are we? Yeah. Is this really Europe? Where are the skyscrapers?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
No, that is just
no skyscrapers.
No skyscrapers. Uh-huh. This is the reality. I'm like, Whew. Okay, interesting. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting I knew nothing about Finland. Mm-hmm. Now, during that ride, I was informed that welcome to Finland. There are 3 kinds of jobs that you can do as a black man in Finland.
Who said that?
My friends who picked me up.
Okay, yeah.
They said you could do cleaning,
mm-hmm.
you can do dishwashing, or you can do newspaper delivery.
Newspaper delivery?
Yes, that's postie.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're coming, these are the things that you should always start knowing. This was kind of like an orientation, you know.
And these friends were Camerooni friends?
They were Cameroonian friends
okay.
who were here a year before me. Uh-huh. So they were telling me they were just giving me an orientation into surviving in Finland as a Cameroonian man. Uh-huh. So these are the 3 jobs you can do. If you want to start working tomorrow, you can start working tomorrow because your permit gives you rights to work. Yeah. You can work 35 hours with a BE permit. I'm like, okay. And you can choose to work and forgo your school, or you can choose to leave the job here and go to your school. The choice is yours. Yeah. Whatever happens, you have to bear the consequences. Yeah. You need to make that choice. I'm like, okay.
Did they say about what consequences would be in one way and what in another?
Well, if you choose to work, you'd have enough money to support yourself, take care of your family back at home. You would be self-sufficient very fast. Mm-hmm. Because when you said, okay, I said, okay, how much would I earn if I work? What is like the average salary for a cleaner? And they told me the amount, 1,001 at that time. 1,002. I'm like, well, first thing I did was I converted the money into our currency in Cameroon, which is CFA francs, and I'm like, damn, that's a hell lot of money. Yeah. Uh-huh. So you start to because you're still thinking in the Cameroonian mindset.
How much? What is the average salary in Cameroon?
Average salary, it's really hard to see. And average salary is a Western thing. It's a Western concept. But average salary.
How much do you need to live? The life you lived there.
The life I lived there. If I had 100,000, it was okay. It was enough. Mm-hmm. You could pay your rent and have enough to eat and save a little bit. But very rarely people would earn 100,000. 100,000.
1,100.
100,000 CFA francs. 100,000. It's equivalent to about 150 euros.
150 euros.
Yeah, about 160, 150 euros. Mm-hmm. That's the amount. And this was me now getting 10 times.
Yeah.
Or 8 to 9 times more. I'm like, woof. Mm-hmm. So that's the first temptation you have. And they said, you need to choose what you want to do with your life. And I'm like, okay. And I was asking, so why can't you do anything? Why can't you only do these 3 jobs? Mm-hmm. Who says that you can't do all of these 3 jobs? Yeah. So that's the places where you are employed. It's not about what you want to do. This is where you will get the job. So are you going to start fighting to get work in a place where you know that you will not be employed, or are you going to just go and get work in a place where you know that you will get the work?
So they said that actually you can get education, But then you will not get employed with that education.
Well, basically, no. The question was like, I asked, why is it that I can only work as a cleaner, dishwasher, or post newspaper delivery person? And they said these are the places where these are the places where you are employable. You're not employable as an accountant, even if you have the best accounting degree.
Why?
That was the reality. That is the reality here in Finland. If you have a best law degree somewhere else, you're still not recognized. Your degree, people's foreign degrees are not recognized or respected in Finland.
Yeah.
So coming in as an immigrant, I was already told on the first day that forget all your working experience, all your degrees.
Basically, forget your ambitions.
It's forget your ambitions. Start asking yourself, do you want to go with the plan that is Finland is made for you, which is be a cleaner, be a dishwasher, be a newspaper delivery person, and enough to take care of yourself, but stay there. So that is your place. So it's like you're coming into this country, but know your place. Your place is here, and this orientation is something that the people who picked them up already told them that. And this is something they learn, so it's kind of handed down from one generation to another, from one group to another. So people keep coming and keep telling me that this is the kind of jobs you can do. This is where you're employable. This is where you can get something. This is how you should survive here. So it's kind of, and these are things that the system has informed them consciously by policies and different actions and practices.
Finnish system.
Yes.
But you didn't choose that way.
Yeah, well, I chose to go to school. I didn't come just to. I always believed that I could do more. I wanted to go to school. I was excited about being in school. I was excited about having a master's degree. I went to Oulu a few days after I arrived in Helsinki. Went to Oulu. There was even terrible. There in Helsinki, I could have a job the next day. In Oulu, no jobs at all.
Even cleaning,
all of those, nothing. And I'm like, well, I've got to survive. So I chose to stay there, and it was really exciting. I think that I remember that the first time I worked as Oulu, I did some black work. I was paid on my hand. And I can't say it because if I see the kind of work, it's easy to identify who offered that work to me. That would not be good. So
but people know when they come, they know that there are these types of jobs where you can be paid by cash.
Yes. No. You need to. For example, if you come in, the good thing was that I met someone who was doing that same job, and when the person left, he connected me to his boss, and I was filling in whenever I was needed.
But you went and you said that studying was exciting.
Studying was exciting.
What does it mean, exciting?
It was a different way of studying. It was
different from Cameroon.
Very different, yes.
How different?
In Cameroon, the way we studied is that you have a lot of other supports. In Cameroon, you go to school, you copy notes from the teacher. At the university level, you copy notes from the teacher. He prints handouts for you. You take the handouts, you go home, you read. You come and reproduce the same things that you've studied in class. You come, you give back those things, and you're evaluated for that. But in Finland, what I loved about Finland was that it had different ways of studying. I had access to the internet. I could get every information I wanted on the internet. In Finland, there was the first time when I had to present on a PowerPoint. I'd never used a PowerPoint in my life before. It was exciting using the PowerPoint and presenting my ideas with the aid of a PowerPoint. We did group studies. We studied alongside with someone and presented with people. And you were learning new things in different ways. You had to, it was also exciting to be taught by a white person. So all of these little things that you were
why?
I'd never been taught by a white man before. So growing up, it was like there is this white superiority
in Cameroon.
Yeah, it is. That I didn't learn about white superiority in Finland. I learned about white superiority back then in Cameroon. So it was exciting to then see myself being excited about being taught by a white person for a change.
What I mean, like in Cameroon, when you discuss this white superiority in Cameroon, in what ways superior?
How do I learn it?
Yeah.
How do people think or learn about this concept? When we grew up, you start watching movies.
Yeah.
And in these movies, the whites are always presented as the heroes. You'll see a movie where, for example, a white person would travel to somewhere in Asia.
Yeah.
He would defeat all the armies in that Asian country, and he would save one white man to take him back.
Yeah. Sort of James Bond movies.
James Bond, Rambo movies where he's the hero. There was this white prototype is always the hero.
Yeah.
You watch even normal soap opera shows, it's the white people, the way the white people do things, it's always the
opera. So she invites mostly?
No. I mean white opera shows, like white television shows.
Okay, soap operas.
Soap operas, okay, it's like this. These are the things that people fancy or people envied. This is like even the idea of Christianity as well. It's a very white thing. So the priest, where the white person was the priest. And
in Cameroon?
Yes. Back then, growing up, we didn't have black priests. We had the black person was the catechist. He was the assistant.
Yeah.
And the priests were the white people.
Yeah.
They would come in. They were the ones holier. They were the holiest persons in the parish. They would be the one that you go and confess to them. They would tell you that, oh, your sins are now forgiven. So all around you, wherever whiteness popped up, it popped up as something that meant that was superior, to something you had to look up to, something that you had to work and respect. So that's how you started learning about white. For example, the first time when I saw a crucifix of Jesus, a black crucifix of Jesus, was when I went to Nigeria to apply for my residence permit to come to Finland. So all along, Jesus has always been the white man. You know, he's been the savior, the white savior who's come to, and we all have to bow down to. So whiteness, even when you watch cartoons, they were all white characters. You know, they were exciting. So everything about white that you saw that to do with white was exciting, was superior, was wonderful, was pure, was ideal. You had to idealize yourself to be white.
When did you realize that whites are no-how superior?
When I came to Finland. I think before I came to Finland, I didn't really understand what it meant to be black. I knew I was black. I knew black was beautiful. But when I came to Finland and I started experiencing and thinking about whiteness and blackness, I realized that there was much more. You know, and not during my master's thesis. I went through my master's thesis very blind. Because I was still in that stage where I was still reveling and enjoying. I was still in the
idealizing
stage. Yes, I was still just everything was still. I was still marveling at everything white. But post my PhD, I started thinking critically. I started asking questions. When I moved to Helsinki, I became very disgruntled because I wasn't happy working as a cleaner.
And you worked to support your living, basically, and studying.
Yes, and to support myself, and sometimes I could send also money back home to help family and friends. And I realized I wasn't happy because I just thought, when I went to work, I realized that so many people I was working with, people who were commanding me and bossing me around, did not even, they were not as educated as I was. This is me, a master's student, or somebody with a master's degree. And when I told them I had a master's degree, some of them were like, what? What are you doing here with a master's degree? I realized that no, these guys are not even educated. I'm more educated than them, but they got better positions than I have. I started asking questions and started realizing that there is just something about my blackness that disfavors me or that disadvantages me. And I was like, no, maybe we have to change. Maybe something has to change.
Was it some accumulating knowledge, or was it some sudden experience when they say, hey, it's all BS, basically?
Yeah, it's an accumulation. You know, you accumulate these things. It happens. You ignore it. You know, from the first day when I came to Finland, now that the discussion in the car about welcome to Finland, the orientation I had was a racist orientation.
Yeah, it was.
It was. I didn't find it problematic. I lived with those terms. I respected that orientation. I believed in that orientation. That's why when I went to Oulu, I was looking for cleaning jobs, dishwashing jobs, newspaper delivery jobs. I never went to look for any job which was not these TV jobs. Never.
So people sort of start limiting themselves by these perceptions because they don't understand that they deserve much more.
They don't. They know they deserve much more, but they are told or they are made to believe that they cannot get much more, and so they have to accept and appreciate the little that they have. You know, I believed that I could do more before I came to Finland. When I came to Finland, I was told that this is where you are, this are the things you can do, and I conformed. And I started looking for the things only around that area. I conformed, yes. I started looking for things only around those areas. I didn't challenge myself to do more. Because I believed in the narrative that I was only good enough for these three kinds of jobs.
How to change this narrative?
People change this narrative, they can change it differently. You know, I think that people like sharing experience about the alternative, the different kinds of opportunities out there. It's one way. But I think that the way to change the narrative is to change the structures that produces this narrative.
Which structures?
Which are the policies.
Policies
that are in place. And policies have to do with written and unwritten policies. Because this narrative is a policy. It's an unwritten policy. You know. So we need to change those policies, both written ones and unwritten, and they have to come from both sides. From those who are racialized,
so black people, let's say.
Yes. And those ones, and the Finns who are the dominant group, who are imposing that narrative to the racialized or black people. So it has to be changed from both sides. So the black people have to reject it, and the white people also have to make an effort to kind of disclaim it. In that sense, you know, we can start thinking of changing the narrative.
What will be the first 3 steps?
The first 3 steps. Let me see. Those in power, the white people, have to open up and start creating or giving opportunities to non-white people, opportunities that they have not, they're not used to giving to them. A few years ago, I was approached by someone from the city of Helsinki. I was asking, what can we do in the city of Helsinki to make it more friendlier? I'm like, when you as a white, when your people in Helsinki who go around eating in restaurants, think that it's okay for them to be served on the table in their restaurants by black people, then we can start talking about making changes. Because it's okay to have the black person washing your dishes, but you don't want them to bring you food even.
Really?
Yeah. You want them to, nowadays the black people can bring you food, they can carry the food and ring your door and give it to you. But you don't want them to serve you when you go to have a nice time in the restaurant. How many black waiters have you seen in Finland?
I haven't, I think. I haven't.
Yeah. So when it's that's sort of very small subtle things. So that means that in a way there is a policy, an unwritten policy, which restricts just that particular line of work.
But I mean, like, is it provable? Maybe, is it possible that it's just people don't want to have these jobs? Like, because I really haven't. I'm now thinking, and I cannot remember a single instance when a black person was working as a waiter.
Yeah, but you have them in the restaurants. Sometimes you can have 1 or 2 as chefs, or you can have 1 or 2 as, most of them are doing the dishwashing, but not serving. what is it that is so, why, and the things that sometimes we say, can you prove? I don't have to prove. Look at the numbers. The numbers tell the story. And these are things that you have to sit down and then ask yourself. It's not just because they don't want to. For example, why aren't the black doctors in Finland? You can't say that, you cannot tell us that because they don't want to. No, they want to. But there are structures that limits them from being or from becoming doctors. Those same structures that limits them from becoming medical doctors restrict them from becoming police officers or from becoming just waiters, just a waiter.
So is it some screening, or is it some filtering, or is it some how the structure works that limits actually this?
Well, it is screened at different levels. For example, becoming a teacher in Finland is very Finnish-oriented. How many teaching programs are run in English that would give you access to becoming a teacher in Finland and giving the employment as a teacher? So there were already gatekeepers. For example, language, for example, is used in Finland as a gatekeeper to limit people from accessing certain kinds of jobs.
But why should Finnish people provide in Finland education in English and not in Finnish?
Because Finland prides itself on internationalization, and if you pride yourself on internationalization, you should then create programs which are international. And international doesn't mean at the master's level. International should be at all levels. That is international. So if you pride yourself as being international, show us that you're international. You should do the work, not the talk.
So it's there should be more English.
There should be not just English, but other languages. But English is it's kind of it's like a more international language. But if there are more English programs, it makes it more inclusive. It makes it also which also ensure that the job market, the working place, is also English friendly. That people don't have to have perfect Finnish skills to be able to work in certain fields in Finland. Now, this is one thing I have to also tell you about. About my choice. Now, when I came to Finland, one of the things I realized after my master's degree was that I realized that there were two kinds of immigrants in Finland. The narrative at that time was that you need to come to Finland, study the language for you to be successful. And that's the narrative they have today. They call it integration. I call it jargon. Now, they say, come here, study the language, and you'll be successful. And I sat down and I looked at what did they mean by success? I realized that they were defining success, what success meant for the immigrants. But I realized that there's one group of people who come in and they go through integration policies. And today they are working as bus drivers. Now we've extended. Now we're no longer working only as cleaners, dishwashers. Now we can work as bus drivers, which is a white collar job in quotes. You have people also working as caregivers,
nurses.
As nurses, So they've opened up some other work fields, but still these work fields are low-end work fields.
Low salaries?
Low salaries work field. Then I realized that there was another group of immigrants in Finland who did not even know the Finnish language, but they were the ones making the big bucks. They were the ones making the biggest money. Their salary was huge, enormous. And these people were called expats. They were the whites from other parts of Western countries who were coming here as so-called experts. And they were not required
experts or expats.
Experts or expatriates or
expats.
Yes. And they were not required to learn the Finnish language. But they were earning big bucks. They were working as managers for Nokia then. They were working as principals for international schools, working in top places. And I'm like, I had to make a choice. Do I want to find myself as an expert? Or do I want to go through the integration policy program and end up becoming a bus driver or nurse?
A successful bus driver, a successful nurse.
Yeah. And I'm like, which of these two groups do I want to identify or want to become? And I made a choice there and there after my master's that I was gonna aim for the expertise group. I was gonna aim to become an expert. It's better to aim high, shoot low. So I decided to aim. That's when I decided I was going to do a PhD. I was going to be an expert in my own line, and when I would talk as an expert. And so I will become employable not because I'm black, but because I've chosen this particular field of study, and I have proven gone through the academic processes, I can stand and defend myself as an expert in a particular subject. So that's why I made the choice of I said, okay, I'm going to go the route of becoming an expert. So you see that I could as well. Some people choose to go through the integration programs and become successful bus drivers or successful working in the hospitals at different levels of this care of this caregiving, and so they become, they start earning high. When immigrants come into the country, the first thing they start orientating them is how much is your per hour wage, how much do you earn per hour. But today's asking how much do I earn per hour, I do not know. I have a salary, but I don't know how much. I've moved away from thinking about my work as a per hour wage structure, which most immigrants think of their work, that how much do you earn per hour? And that's the problem, because that becomes a problem. They want to start evaluating, like, oh, when I came in, my first salary was €7 per hour. I moved on to €9 per hour. At some point, I did one work which I earned €15 per hour. And I'm like, oh, I'm moving up the ladder. But I realized that I have to start thinking about my wage structure as a per hour income, but I'm looking at it from a gross income. And at some point, I have to move away from looking at it from income to being able to produce wealth myself. So there are these different stages that I'm thinking of going through.
And plus, when we think about this wages per hour, they have a ceiling, they have a limit, right? So it's not that 15, then 50, then 100 per hour, and then 200 per hour, right? So
exactly.
They will limit at some 20 maybe, and that's it.
Or then if you start with 7, we're gonna give you a raise. We've moved it now to 8. And you're like, we moved it down to 9. And then if you do this and you have the certificate again, we're gonna move it to 10. I'm gonna move it now. Now we've added it now. If you change jobs now, if you go to school and get a degree, you may then have a potential to work and earn €13 per hour. If you work night shifts, you then have a potential to work €15 per hour. And so you start calculating based on that per hour limited structure.
Very limited.
Very limited, yes.
When you were doing your master's, did you experience racism?
Oh yeah, definitely I did. I think one of the first times I experienced racism in Finland was when one pedestrian unleashed their dogs. Unleashed the dogs, like let the dogs loose, to let the dogs out of the leash. And the dog had started running after me. So I
attacked you?
Yeah.
Why?
I guess because I didn't look white enough for him. He was just...
In Oulu?
In Oulu, yes.
Pedestrian unleashed a dog on you.
Yes.
And how it ended?
I was riding a bicycle, I ran, I was just trying to run quite as fast as I could. And I'm happy, I fortunately I didn't get hurt.
Was it a big dog?
It was not that big dog, but it was a big dog.
So he just unleashed a pedestrian, a dog on you. And you didn't tell him anything, you didn't,
I was
just because of...
I was just riding past. I did nothing to him, I don't even know him, I said nothing. I was just riding and minding my own business. And that is an incident of racism that I experienced. In Oulu,
Yeah.
One of the things also about racism that you experience when you're in Oulu is the public services. For example, the bus. Very often it's a very white space because the people who are using the bus, students who use the bus or people who use the bus are Finns, and they often have support from Kela. Now, students coming from abroad, when you come into Finland, you can't afford to go by the bus, to go with the bus. So just being in the bus, you look out of place in the bus.
I don't understand. Is it like, it's so expensive?
Yes, it is expensive.
Bus?
Yes, to take the bus back and forth every day for students coming from abroad, it's an expensive thing. That's why everyone uses the bicycle. So it makes you look alien. As a black person, you look alien being in a bus in Oulu. And also, there are different kinds of racism you face in school, you face in the university. So there's racism. I experienced lots of different kinds of racism during the first year. During my first years in Oulu, also even just working, not being able to get a job, it is part of racism. Being able to only get a job and being paid on my hand, that is also aspects of racism. So just a lot of different things.
Have your friends told you also about these racism things that happened to them?
Yeah, but remember that this was the first time. This early years, like I said, it was the years where you were still marveling and you were enjoying being in whiteness. You were enjoying that at last you have had access into whiteness. So you don't even think about some of these things that you face. You see them as a norm. So when you talk to people who look like you, they experience similar things. And so you're like, what's there to complain about? This is the norm. Let's just live. Let's accept it and go and live with it.
Who were your friends in Oulu?
People from my Cameroonian community. There was one of my friend who was also from Zimbabwe. He was my classmate. I was also one of them from South Africa. So it was like we bonded together. The blacks stayed together, and that's always the case when you see most immigrant groups. They stay together. It's like you get this bond. You get this kind of, if you feel protected, you feel like this communal protection that you feel like you have when you bond, when you stay together. But then something happened to me when once when I was studying in Oulu. There was this one Danish professor who came in, and I was presenting my master's thesis to him. My master's thesis was about the effect of poverty in Cameroon then. And he looked at it. I was very excited about that master's thesis. I was really happy that I'm researching about poverty. I'm going to make people's lives better. And he listened and listened and listened. He asked me one question. Why are you studying poverty in Cameroon while you're in Finland? I'm like, because it's an important topic. And he's like, yes, it is important. I'm not saying it's not important. But there are people in Cameroon who are studying the same phenomenon. There are people elsewhere who are studying the same phenomenon. Why do you think your study is important? What do you think you can change in your studies? And I was like, well, I'm trying to understand. I'm asking students who've experienced education in Cameroon, and now they are living in Finland, and they can now tell me about they can reflect back about how poverty affected them, and they can talk about it. I'm like, and it's like, I get it, but what is it gonna change? What is it that you're gonna add? What are you bringing? What is it that how is it gonna help you? And I'm like, I don't know. He was like, you are here. You are fortunate to be here. You will be you stand a better chance, you have better chances to succeed if you study these people here. Study them. Study how they work, study how they think. They would respect you for it here, and when you go back home, they would also respect you for it. Because you have done something that they in Cameroon cannot do, and you've done something here, people here cannot do in the same way like you would do it. And I'm like, yeah, And that's the first time I decided that I was going to study about something that had to do with Finland.
PhD.
Yes, and that's how I got involved with studying about anti-racism in Finland.
Yeah.
I wanted to study about what is going on in this country.
What is going on in this country?
Yes, that's what I wanted to do, something that was Finnish.
Yeah.
So I wanted to add to the discourse in Finland. I wanted to understand how Finland works.
Yeah.
That's where I got the idea of studying something about Finland.
That is my question, because I learned about you as an expert, actually. Yeah, I learned from Professor Dervin about you that you are the main expert, actually, in Finland about anti-racist education, about all these things like Finnish exclusiveness, and so. Yeah. So what is going on in this country? Can you tell me now, as an expert, already like acclaimed expert?
Well, I like to say I'm a human being first, and so basically, when I decided to do a PhD, I wanted to study about. That was around the same time when I had my first kid in Finland, and around that time,
your wife is Finnish or?
My spouse is Finnish.
Spouse, yeah.
Yes. And so around that time. But that's around that time. Where was I? Around that time, I was still working as a cleaner.
Yeah.
And around that time as well, I was also like bored about working as a cleaner.
Bored, like boredom.
Yeah, exactly. And I was always looking into ways of leaving my cleaning job. So I applied to teach as a substitute teacher in different schools. I sent over 50 different applications to different schools.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for 50 opportunities. I was looking just for one opportunity. So I got this one little part-time gig where you could go and substitute for one teacher for 1 week. I was like, wow. So that kind of showed me that there was at least a limited chance to do something else. Then I applied. I said, I'm going to go for this PhD. And I wanted to study anti-racism through the lens of an existing anti-racism structure. So I realized that I was in contact with one NGO which did anti-racism visits to different schools. So what I did was I met them, discussed with them, I said I wanted to do research, my PhD on your work, and some of them they agreed. So I applied to do a PhD at the University of Helsinki, met my dear friend Professor Dervin. He took me under his wing and supervised my PhD. And so I was trying to kind of understand how does anti-racism work in Finland? But to understand how anti-racism works in Finland, you need to understand what is racism in Finland. Yeah. So I started asking the questions, what is racism? Yeah. This is something that I've been experiencing, but my experiences alone are not enough. Yeah. How do other people experience racism? What do they believe to be racism? So I started doing more, like diving into this topic of racism and trying to, so once I had an understanding of what racism was, I wanted to understand also why is anti-racism needed in Finland, and what is already done with regards to anti-racism education in Finland. And what was being done was that particular NGO and that particular structure that they had created, that they were offering anti-racism lectures to different schools around Finland, and that was really good. But at some point, working with that particular NGO, I sent a questionnaire asking them, what would you like to change in this NGO? What would you like to improve? And surprisingly enough, the response that I got from the people working in the NGO was that they didn't see the need to change anything. They thought the NGO was perfect. What they were doing was good. And I'm like, I can't be doing an action research in a project that sees itself as perfect. So I had to change my PhD format. I started looking for what other anti-racism education practices are out there. So that was one of the best decisions that that was one of the best things that happened to me. The failure with my work at an NGO opened me to other success stories that helped me to understand anti-racism in Finland from a more broader perspective. What I learned from that approach, from during that time, was that anti-racism in education in Finland was and is limited to little spurs of NGOs organizing different one-day meetings, one-day lectures in different schools where they talk about racism. It's not something that is integrated in the Finnish curriculum.
So it's like token events.
It's like a token event, yes.
Okay, we made this multinational market, we show cooking, schmooking, all these things, and we think that we are doing good.
Yes, exactly. It's like a token. It's like you just do it to mark a box that we did something about racism, and I was based on that. I didn't just want to show that what was going on, because I was trying to show what was going on, but I was also saying that although this is going on, these are the things we can do differently to make it better. So I went and I was looking into how teachers can use existing, because there are no textbooks on anti-racism here or anywhere, especially in Finland. So I was like, if you're teaching history, you're teaching, for example, topics like the Holocaust or the First World War, you can explore the issue, you can bring the issue of racism into that as an essential element in your teaching of this particular subject. And I showed how that could be done. I said, okay, well, you could also use mobile phone apps to discuss and teach anti-racism issues. And I also showed how parents of immigrant background children would or could discuss about these issues at home with their children. I also tried to show how kindergarten teachers can critically use certain books or certain storybooks to critique elements of racism and show how stereotypes are embedded in.
Can you give an example? What books, for instance?
For example, myself and my friend, alongside with my good friend Heidi Lane, we looked into this book called Bibi Moved to Finland. Bibi, that's the translated title from Finnish to English. And it's a wonderful book. It's a really nice book. But in that particular book, for example, we looked at how the pictures in that book presented Finnishness and Africanness. So Finland was presented as a clean country, developed country. It had a flag. The student, the young people here, they wear Marie Meko dresses. They have blonde hair, blue eyes. And then Africa, on the other hand, was presented as this country, as this place where people lived with wildlife all around. So there were lions, giraffes, monkeys, all over. The kids were, in Finland, the kids played with dogs. In Africa, the kids were playing with grasshoppers.
Grasshoppers?
Yes.
Why?
That's the picture that the book presented. In Finland, people wear shoes. In Africa, people did not wear shoes. So people walked around without shoes. So we kind of looked into that book and showed how these stereotypical ideas, the book was published in 2005. It's a fairly recent book. So we're showing how students or children from a young age start learning about a stereotypical Africa where people are poor, people are not clean, people are uncivilized, and compared to a civilized, in quotes, Finland.
Is it so that maybe those who wrote or have written those books, they just lack knowledge? And actually, it's not about, let's say, racism, or it's not about racism. It is about just ignorance, lack of knowledge, because people are like book authors. They are, let's say, lazy to not go and check what actually people wear in Africa, with what actually, and plus what Africa, what type of Africa, like, you know. So maybe it's not racism, but it's just ignorance. And you can fight stereotypization or categorization with providing more knowledge.
I will disagree with you on that. I think it's racism because these people were telling a story in 2005. It's a story in very recent times. It wasn't a book published in 1999 or in 1982. Yeah. It's a book published in 2000s.
Yeah,
we contacted the publisher and asked about, for example, why are you presenting this? Yeah. And the response we got was, the publisher believes that the audience are fascinated and will love and believe that this is the story of Africa. This is what they want. This is what they think the audience are ready to receive. They're not so sure if the audience will accept or are open to accepting a different view of Africa. So it's not about ignorance. It's about racism, because still the publishers themselves are skeptical. They don't trust that Finland, the Finnish readers or the Finnish audience are informed enough or are ready enough or are ready to move past their own stereotypes of Africa. So that is pure racism. It's not ignorance.
Because I mean, like, maybe I'm wrong, but the same actually happens when in the West books depict Russia. It will be bears, it will be balalaika, like, you know, and it will be this matryoshka or babushka doll. And I cannot say that it's because they are Russophobic, for instance, but because they have no idea what Russia is.
So this is the 21st century, and
we still have ignorant people.
Yeah, but people. But even when you are ignorant, you're punishable by law. The law punishes you for ignorance, and racism punishes. And as a scholar of racism, you're punishable if you are ignorant about issues of racism. You cannot hide behind ignorance today in the 21st century about racism, because the ignorance card has been played. It's constantly being played as a way of denying issues of racism. People claim to be ignorant all the time, but are they really ignorant, or are they using ignorance as a denial tactics?
Can you give an example?
For example, people would claim. Let me look for a good example. For example, people ask you, where are you from? I say Cameroon. You say, where is that? You say in Africa. I say, do you live in trees? Why do you? And I say, what do you mean? And they say, but do you live on trees? Why do you assume that I live on trees? Haven't you ever seen a picture, or are you blind to the images? Are you blind to the image of any image about Africa? You know, for you to assume that, or even think that you can ask me if I live on trees, no, I don't. For example, once I was visiting Glasgow. In the middle of Glasgow city, there was this beautiful hut. There was this beautiful constructed African hut.
Yeah.
Yes. And it had a caption there, "Welcome to Africa." I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go visit that place.
Yeah.
So I walked in. I was welcomed by one beautiful, loving white woman, and he said, "Hey, welcome to Africa. Please come on in." I walked in. And he said, do you want to sit? I looked around, there was no seat. There was no place to sit. And I said, no. And she said, yeah, you don't want to sit because there are no seats. In Africa, people don't have seats to sit. I'm like, okay. Then she offered me a glass of water, which was literally very, very dirty. You could see that it was all brown. And he said, would you mind a drink? I'm like, no, thank you. He said, oh, you don't want to have a drink because the water is dirty, right? I'm like, yes. And he said, in Africa, this is the case. People drink dirty water. I'm like, okay. And then she moved on to the next page. He said, look at these pictures. What do you see? I say, I see kids. Yeah. He said, look, these kids have to walk 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers to go to school. Is that normal? And I said, I don't know what you mean by normal. And he said, no, it is not normal. These kids are suffering. I'm like, okay. And then she moved into the next room and she said, oh, would you like to lie down and sleep here? I'm like, there is no bed? He said, yes, in Africa, people don't have beds. And he said, so we need to come together and donate any amount you can donate, even if it's £5, we can help. And I'm like, wait a minute. I said, have you ever been to any part of Africa? He said, no. I'm like, well, I was born and raised in Cameroon. It's not Africa, but it's a country in Africa. I cannot speak for the entire African continent, but I can speak as someone from Cameroon who knows about the continent. All of these things that you've shown me, you should be ashamed of yourself. She was like, huh? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, look, if I would have walked in here and you just showed me pictures of a beautiful airport, beautiful skyscrapers, beautiful paved roads, beautiful people laughing and enjoying and having fun, beautiful, just everything that we have in Europe, a developed system with rail tracks and everything, good buses and a clean city. And you say, this is Africa, this is Africa, this is Africa. But let's not focus on these parts of Africa, because these parts of Africa are very okay. They are very good. But let's focus on these other parts of Africa which needs help. And then you show me, you do the tour, I would respect you, because now you're showing Africa as if it's a single story. A single story where people don't have seats to sit. A single story where everyone drinks dirty water, and everyone has to walk 10 kilometers to go to school, and people don't have beds to sleep. And that's very, very wrong to represent a continent in these four stereotypical manner. And I said, this is what you're doing is purely racist. Irrespective of your intention, irrespective of your ignorance, this is racist, and you can't shame people to help people. You can't. So, and she was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I really hope you're sorry, because all of this whole thing doesn't help Africa. It kills Africa. It makes people in Africa even suffer more because of structures like that, because of thinking like that, because of perceptions or stereotypes like that. No matter, irrespective of the fact that maybe you would raise £10, and maybe out of the £10 you would send £1. What will your £1 do? There are people in Europe, countries in Europe, who need help financially, who are also poor. Poverty and Africa are not synonyms. We should stop seeing them like that. To see poverty and Africa as synonyms is a racist idea. It's a racist way of thinking. And that is why I say it is racist.
Yeah, thanks. But don't you, I mean, like, I try to, I definitely also have lots of stereotypes, but I see this, like this hut and this girl in it, as a way maybe to, or maybe I will see this young lady, as a very average, maybe ignorant lady that knows nothing. Maybe she's not racist, I would say. She's ignorant, and she's just doing some job that gives her some money.
Okay.
And she thinks that she does it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. She's ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
She's selling a narrative.
Yeah.
And that narrative is racist.
Yeah.
So it's not about her intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Her intentions have nothing to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the product, the outcome of her actions. The outcome of her action produces racist structures, produces racism, and I, as a racialized person, I suffer because of social narrative.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So irrespective of her intentions, irrespective of her ignorance, her actions produces racism. Her actions are racist. And her ignorance doesn't justify the fact that I am hurt or that I receive racism. For example, I cannot give you a smack and tell you that I was just trying to test if my hand works. I was ignorant. I was ignorant about how painful that smack would look like, would feel like, and then I'll tell you that do not cry because it didn't hurt. It was just a little smack. How can I be the judge and jury and everything at the same time? You know, so that can't happen.
Okay, how to talk then about Africa?
Africa is a continent. Most often we talk about Africa as if it's a country. It's a huge continent as you know. It's very diverse and it's very rich. It's one of the richest continents on earth. It's it is rich economically, it's rich historically, it's rich politically. You know, talk about Africa is to talk about the different diversities that exist within Africa. Talk about Africa to celebrate those diversities and celebrate it in terms of respecting the people, how far they've come and how far they can be. They've got potential. You know, Africa as a continent is a country. It's like a hub for black people. Okay, and the idea of Africa and blackness has been constructed in the West is one, because Africa is synonym, can be synonym, it's looked upon as a synonym to race, the race black. Now, the race black in the West has been theorized as inferior, dirty, lazy, not beautiful, backward, emotional, unlawful. So we need to kind of critique how we view race and understand that to view Africa in a positive light, we must view the black race in a positive light. We must deconstruct how we view the black race, because you can't say, I like Africa, I look about Africa in a positive light. But I believe in the hierarchies of race, which places blacks as inferior. That can't work. That cannot work.
So what will work?
We need to first of all understand how race works, how race functions.
How does it function?
Race functions.
You're also one of the experts on, like, you know, the construct of race. So how does it function?
The way race is constructed in a very hierarchical manner, in a way that at the top of that ladder, there is a white race. White, male, Eurocentric American race, the Caucasian white race. And then you have other people coming from Latinx, Asians, and at the bottom of the ladder we have African, the blacks. And each of these races have different qualities. And race, I have to say that it's a social construct, which means that I have nothing to do, it's not my opinion about what race I belong to. I cannot choose to, for example, if I say that, okay, from today I cease to be a black person, I want to identify myself as a white person. The world will still identify me as a black person, irrespective of how I view myself. Even if I say that from today I'm white, I will still be always viewed or placed in the black category, irrespective of how I think of myself.
But is it so necessary to have races at all?
It is not, but it is a reality that we live, that defines how we live our lives, and we cannot ignore it. For example, people try to say, oh, we are all a human race. No, we're not a human race. No. We are a human species. But within that human species, we have different races. You know, I didn't choose to be black. You didn't choose to be white man. You know, I was born into that racial category. Yeah. You know, and that each racial category has predefined
set of characteristics.
And these predefined set of characteristics are stereotypical. Because to think that blacks are lazy or that all blacks are lazy is terrible. Or to think that all blacks are not hardworking or are ugly, or all whites are beautiful, or all whites are more intelligent, and all blacks are more strong physically, so they are more suitable for slavery. All of these things are very stereotypical ideas or stereotypical characteristics that are assigned to certain races. And we need to be able to deconstruct these stereotypical ideas which are assigned to race and try to look at race and understand these stereotypical ideas, but look at race as something that goes beyond, that is just not limited to our stereotype. Our stereotype should not define what race is.
But I mean, okay, come on, like a provocative question.
Yeah.
I know quite a few people who were born in Africa. And while discussing, there is a stereotype between people come from different countries of Africa, that they are much better lovers than white males.
Yes.
Is it true?
No, it is still a stereotype. It is a racial stereotype.
But they like it. They sort of enjoy it. And they say that in Sweden, for instance, women are after their black and then the word.
Yeah.
So how you would approach that? It's a stereotype.
Yes.
But it's positive black stereotype or not?
No, it is negative black stereotypes.
Why?
Because historically, black men have been lynched for looking at a white woman, just looking.
In the States?
In the States, yes. Just looking at a white woman could get you lynched. You know, just talk less of touching a white woman, because white women were the symbol of white purity. So it was a no-go area for black men. You know, what black men celebrate today, and they think that they're celebrating something that is positive, what they view as positive is perceived as negative, that they are only defined as that. That means they are only good enough for sexual activity. So that becomes the stereotype, and that's the negativity that sometimes we don't understand. So we as a black person, sometimes we also reproduce black stereotypes that harm us. It doesn't mean that we are always we always understand these stereotypes. Sometimes we don't even understand the stereotypes. Sometimes we reproduce the stereotypes even though without understanding how harmful it is racially.
Okay, and what to do? Like, you know, what again to do? What to do, one question. Another question, should all white feel the white guilt?
No, I don't think that we need to feel the white, or whites have to feel the white guilt, but I think that whites have to understand their role in how race and racism functions today. You may not have participated as an individual, but as belonging to a particular racial group, you are benefiting and enjoying from the privileges of people who've lived before you, who have made it easier for you to benefit from those privileges. And so from that, you need to be able to understand, empathize, and act in a way that helps to say, personally, I may have not done anything wrong, but my being white takes away the place of a non-white person in this country, or in that country, or wherever. I understand that I am benefiting from whiteness consciously and unconsciously, and I try to work towards equity in a way that I try to work towards racial equity in a way that gives access to non-white people.
Yeah.
Now,
can I, for instance, I come from Russia, and Russia never partook in slave trade. We had slaves who were white. We had white slaves, and basically majority of Russians that are today, they're descendants of white slaves. White to white. So I don't see how, for instance, Russians or Ukrainians or Belarusians or like those, even Finns, how we are benefiting from our being white. Because even in your study that stopped, Russians were among the categories that were among the, not oppressed, but sort of those who are stopped more often than so how this concept should be, okay, going towards equity, okay, no white guilt, but at least going towards equity, benefits of the white race, but I don't see what benefits of the white race Russians do have, for instance.
you mean Russians in Russia or Russians in Finland?
Okay, Russians in Russia, for instance.
Okay. Well, I'm not an expert on issues of Russia in Russia, but I just like to just point out a few things about how white people benefit from, or how they could. I'm just going to say hypothetically now, because I've never been to Russia, so I don't really. I'm not going to talk about specific. I'm just going to say hypothetically. Now, many years ago, did you have tea?
Yeah, of course.
And coffee?
Of course.
Where did they come from?
Tea from China mostly, and coffee I think from Brazil and from...
And those things, most of them were farmed by slaves. Even the sugar sometimes that Russia had.
Yeah, but China...
Still, they were farmed by slaves.
But Chinese slaves...
You talked about Brazil. So I'm saying that if you think that it came from some of the things from Brazil. For example, Haiti produced sugar for all over the world, and this was done on the backs of slaves. Yes, you may not have had slaves, but you've benefited from the system
that operated on slavery.
On slavery. And that system is still gives you access to it. For example, if you and I were in Russia, you would your whiteness or your Russianness would give you more access than I. If you and I, for example, are in Finland, you can pass as a Finn, and I cannot pass. I can never pass as a Finn because of your whiteness. No, I have friends in Finland who are blacks, and they come from places like, for example, one comes from America, one comes from France. They experience some of them experience racism just because they're black. Yeah. But when they speak, the person from America speaks American. He doesn't speak English, he speaks American. Yeah. The person from France speaks France. That language alone elevates that person to a white status. He then starts benefiting, he's viewed not as an African black person, but as an American automatically. And so he started receiving better treatment based on his Americanness and based on their Frenchness. So the way whiteness works and the way whiteness and racism work, you can't just say that we didn't do this, so we can't be held accountable. Because you're always benefiting from that system, those structures that were set many years ago. Those are the same structures that forced whites, that gave whites the right to go to Africa and enslave Africans. It's the same structure that racism, that the politics of the racial politics is set today. The same very structures. Nothing has changed.
I'm now thinking how to turn that, we are descendants of Russian slaves, white slaves, how we can, put it into the same narrative.
Of course. You know, there is, for example, I will not talk about Russian slaves because, like I said, I do not know much, but I'll talk about African slaves. There's been discussed about that Africans sold their brothers, their brethren into slavery. So, and in Africa, there were tribal wars and all of these different things, and there were these, we had these different classes. You know, there were people who worked as slaves as well in Africa for Africans. But the difference between that, put in terms with, if you look at it from the Western point of view, most of the Africans who sold Africans into slavery did not know. They believed that they were selling someone who was different from them. But the West saw that you are selling people who look like you. Because when the West looks at Africa, it looks at Africa as black people. But within these black people, you had different. The people were very different. They were from different tribes, different kingdoms, who had different cultures, who were enemies. So I was selling my enemy into slavery. I wasn't selling my friend. I wasn't selling somebody who looked like me. I was selling somebody who was very, very different. Somebody whom I didn't like, I didn't even understand, I don't even recognize. But the West sees it as that you're selling your own. So even within that system, you realize that what you see as one group.
Yeah, and it's actually prisoners of war, for instance, they were selling.
Yes, exactly. So, but the Africa were not selling their brother, they were selling their enemy, they were selling their people who were very different from them. But the West was seeing as if you were selling your own people. So if you look at it from that point of view, maybe you can use this example to put into the Russian context and realize that even within that Russian context, people who were being enslaved, the enslaved Russians had different class to those who were not.
Social class.
Yes.
Then we're coming to socialism, actually, revolution and that struggle of the classes.
Yes.
We can come. What is the situation with slavery nowadays in Russia or in Africa?
No, we don't have slavery. I don't think slavery occurs. We have different kinds of social. I cannot say there is slavery going on in Africa.
Because I've read that in Mali, I think, and in Libya,
there were different kinds of social. Like we're going back to social class, and we're talking about different kinds of orders. But I would not put in the same light or in the same bracket as slavery, because to do that, I will be putting down how I will be putting down the idea of slavery. The idea of slavery is a very huge concept that defined the world, nature as it is today. And so I wouldn't want to compare what's going on today with that very symbolic historical thing that happened in the past called slavery.
Okay, but how do we call when people in Libya, for instance, now are being sold as animals? How then we call it if we don't put it to this very important phenomenon, slavery? But how do we call it now?
I do not know how to comment on that because I do not have the fact. I'm not an expert in that area, so I really cannot comment on that particular point because I would need to study more to be able to comment on that. But I'm looking at the reason why I'm saying that we cannot put it in the same light as slavery, because slavery changed the world. We are where we are in this world because slavery happened. Without slavery, the world would be very different today.
But wouldn't the world have been different without any of the historical events? If Columbus didn't discover America, if we hadn't...
We told you that Columbus discovered America. That's also the thing. America wasn't discovered by Columbus. We can have this. It's kind of this whole thing to believe that Africa was discovered. For example, I come from Cameroon. There was this thing that they said that Cameroon was discovered by the Portuguese. And I'm like,
okay.
And then I'm like, no, it wasn't. Cameroon had always existed before the Portuguese came. The Portuguese came and named Cameroon Cameros, River of Prawns. Until today, the name Cameroon still comes from that name, Cameros. Rio dos Cameros, that was given by the Portuguese. So this whole idea, the history as we know it today, is a very racist history. The history that we know it today. That's why I always implore history teachers to use their classes as a gateway to deconstruct how racism has brought us where we are today. Because history itself is extremely racist.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, like, what to do? Till what level should we deconstruct our history then? This is racist, this is socially unacceptable, this is like, this history is full of blood.
Yeah.
It's written with blood. In Africa itself, people killed one another.
Yes.
In Europe, different religious confessions, like Protestants were killed by Catholics. Tens of thousands slaughtered. So when do we, and we can say that history also changed, or history of France definitely changed because like Catholics killed Huguenots or Protestants. Till what level should we deconstruct? Should we touch this history, or should we just leave it, let bygones be bygones?
I think that because history has a huge effect on who we are, how we are positioned today in the world, what we are, what kind of access we have, and what kind of access we do not have. We can't just ignore it. We need to be able to go back and trace and say, hey, history has played a huge role in our lives. And we can't change that history, but we can work towards making things better tomorrow. We cannot also be prisoners of that history, because to be prisoner of the history is to say that because people who look like me were once slaves, we should always be slaved. But we need to find a way to say, this happened in the past. What can we do to make it right today, and what can we do to make it right tomorrow? That's how we can use history into making lives, or into giving our lives meaning, and making the world we live in a better place.
So what to do? What should we do to make it a better place tomorrow? For instance, now in Finland, what can we do?
One of the things that we need to do in Finland is to recognize that we are living in kind of a non-racist society. And we need to kind of create institutions, we need to kind of create policies which would support racial equity. Very often we believe that we live in a very advanced country where there is peace, there is equality, there is everything. But you can't attain all of these things without really looking at how the other in your country is treated. Someone who's a scientist would say that, oh, let's look at scientific development. Someone who is a doctor, everyone would give these discussions about recommendation based on their field of studies. But someone was working within the area of social exclusion and racism, I always want to say we need to try to ask ourselves, are the policies that govern us, whether it is at the national level or at institutional level, does it produce racial equity? Or does it produce racial inequity? If it produces racial inequity, we have to try to change it to ensure that it does produce racial equity. That's my recommendation. That policies, both at the national level or local level or institutional level, they should all work towards producing racial equity. Not equality, equity.
Do these cultural markets, these one-day events that NGOs do they work?
No, they don't. Well, it also depends what they are trying to achieve. If they are trying to open up people, if they're trying to introduce these topics for people to think about, then okay, they're doing it. But if it's about creating change, they don't, because these are issues of racism are very structurally embedded, and you can't make change at any level based on one day or 1 hour lecture or workshop. You need much more follow-up. You can't change people's mindset just because you think you have a beautiful lesson or a wonderful exercise that you can do with them, and you can make them think. They can think about it in class or in that session. As soon as they step out, they forget it. So I think we need continuous. It has to be a continuous and a gradual, longitudinal effort to try to make change, especially when it comes to issues of race and racism, because it has developed also through a very long period of time.
What do you think about quotas? So that, for instance, the board of company should have certain percent of black people, certain percent of homosexuals, certain percent of so other minorities. What do you think about quotas that parliaments or boards or like institutions should have?
I like it. I think that helps at some level, at least to ensure that there is a level of representation in terms of diversities. I think that we should, however, be careful not to make these kind of take it for granted that this also has negative sides. But I really like the idea of having representations in at different levels. For example, I love football. I watch the Premier League, for example, and it shocks me that there are very, very few black referees or black coaches. And I would want to have these different people in different places so that they would actually be role models for other people to come up and understand that you can become this. Because I am a role model. When I came to Finland, I didn't have any role model within academia to aim to become like. Today, people who are coming in can say, that's Amin. He came to Finland, he worked hard, he did well, he's now working and heading a master's program. He works in the university. I believe through Amin's example that it is possible, and I'm going to work hard towards making it possible. So these representations are very, very important.
If you, a few words, what is Finnish exclusiveness? I was fascinated that you are studying so many things and...
Exclusiveness, I don't understand what you mean. You mean exceptionalism?
Exceptionalism, sorry, yes, Finnish exceptionalism, yeah.
Well, Finnish exceptionalism it's actually borrowed from the idea of American exceptionalism, which is really very different from what we have here. I think the idea of Finnish exceptionalism here, it's about this idea of viewing Finland as historically as a best, and always because of the history, we have this history of being the best, we are always the best in this. That's it in a nutshell. It's just this idea of celebrating the best. We are the best historically, we've always been the best. We've always been viewed as an honest people, so we are honest people. We are always Finland. Finland is synonymous to honesty. Now the idea of this is to also think is that if you turn the table around, you realize that for you to be the best, you are on top of the hierarchy, which means that you're looking down on other people. And those people that you look down on, you're also looking down on them and using history as a reason to look down on. For example, historically, blacks have always been inferior. So which means that historically, if you're the best, and you believe you're the best because of history, you also believe, consciously or unconsciously, that I am the worst because historically I was termed to be not good enough. So I'm not good enough at all.
Okay. How many children do you have?
Three.
Three?
3 children, yeah. Girls, and I love my kids. I love my kids a lot. I think my daughters are one of the reasons why I wanted to do this work. For me, it was when I came to Finland, I experienced racism. I accepted that it was okay. Once I started having kids, I was thinking like, no. I don't want them to experience the same thing I'm experiencing. Of course, they do experience it now, but I wanted to at least leave Finland a better place for them than I met it. I wanted to be able to affect people, touch people, reach people, talk to people who, especially teachers, who tomorrow will teach my children. And treat my children nice, treat my children right. Yeah. Thanks to the fact that they've read my work, they've listened to my lectures, that I've created change at that individual level. Yeah. And these teachers that I get to teach, people that I get to impact, who are white Finns, would go on into places that I cannot reach, and make changes at the policy level that would help to make racism disappear in Finland, that would help to make my life, my children's lives better, and my life better tomorrow. Yeah. So it's like a chain. Yeah.
You said that your children experience racism.
Yes, they do. They've experienced racism ever since they were young.
In what sense? How?
Lots of different ways. You know, my children have been called names. My daughters have been. They've been told they're not good enough. They've been told that they smell.
But by their friend, by
the peers,
classmates,
yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah, they've been treated bad by their teachers and their nannies because they are black. They've been made to feel inferior because of their hair. I remember once when my daughter let her hair open and went to school, and she was laughed at and bullied because of her hair. They've been ridiculed because they dress in African regalia, African dresses. They experience all sorts of ways, different kinds of racism.
How do you respond to that?
As a parent, it's heartbreaking. I try to empower them to think positive about themselves. I try to empower them to find a way to react about when they can. I try to give them a voice to be able to articulate and know that what they're experiencing is not right, and they cannot just. No, they have to have this understanding that they have to start fighting against these kind of things.
What teachers do? I mean, like they should somehow, moderate that, or the teachers eliminate these behaviors.
They should, but they don't, because themselves, the Finnish teachers are not trained to be able to understand, moderate, and eliminate these behaviors. Over 80% of Finnish teachers, between 80 to 85% of Finnish teachers have never been to an anti-racism classroom, course, or any program. So how do you expect them to moderate, eliminate these things if they don't have the training to do that? How do you expect to send people into a battlefield without giving them the appropriate training and weaponry to be able to succeed in the field? So teachers, what happens with in schools when teachers come across these kinds of incidents is that they believe they pretend as if they don't see it. If they see it and they want to respond to it, they would say that their hands are tight, they don't know what to do. They would sometimes shush the children, like, shh, you cannot say that, you cannot say that. No, but when you shush that person, you're not correcting or educating that person to understand why that person cannot have that kind of racial stereotype. You're not trying to dig into the source of that racial stereotype. You just believe that if you shush it, if you just make it disappear, it disappears. No, it doesn't. It stays and it builds on. So teachers in Finland really need training around issues of anti-racism. They need anti-racism support and anti-racism training. We need to develop programs that would help them to give them the right tools and give them the know-how to be able to handle these issues, because the diversity that we have in Finland today is continuously growing.
Yeah, it is. It is. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure sharing these thoughts with you. I think that it's some friends have asked me that why do I do this? Do I believe I can stop racism? Yeah. I don't believe I can stop racism. I'm not into this job to win. I'm here to struggle. Anti-racism, I consider it as a pedagogy of struggle, which means that I am. Do you know about Sisyphus?
Of course.
The Greek philosopher.
You mean the
one was cursed? The Greek god was cursed to push the wall up the hill, and it rolls down and he goes back up. It goes down and he pushes up. That's what I do as an anti-racism. I'm continuously pushing at an elephant. This elephant sometimes it moves, sometimes it doesn't. Most often it doesn't even move. But at the end of the day, I get stronger. I get better. I understand. You know, I go through this struggle, but it leaves me, it's a painful one. But I'm always becoming a better person when I struggle. You know, so I try to bring in people into the push to help me push the stone up the hill, to help me push the elephant out of the room. And I think the more people that come into push, we will be able to make a better change. But the area where I think that Finland needs to focus on, if we want to have the best change in terms of racism in Finland, it has to be at the policy level. I am stuck at the educational level. What I can do at the educational level is to change people's mind, influence people's ways of thinking, and hope that these people whom I influence can move on to change policies. Because I cannot change policies because I'm limited. I don't have the access. But the policy change is what we need. The policy change would really help go a long way to making things better racially in Finland.
But why do you think we cannot fight racism and eliminate racism?
Because it's so structurally embedded. It is embedded in policies which are historically, which is a system that helps to protect itself all the time. It's like a machine. It works in different ways, and the sole goal is self-preservation.
Yeah, but look, we are in 2020. We're in much better world actually than we were in 1960. It was like in the United States in 1960, black people couldn't sit.
True.
In this, so the world and 44th president of the States was black actually. So something that was completely unthinkable 20 years before. So I am here very optimistic because there are so many brilliant people like you who are acting in a very right direction, I think.
Yes, but the thing is that, for example, in Finland, we are still where the US was in 1960. That's how I see it.
Finland is?
Yes. We still need to work so hard to get to where the United States was 10 years ago with the black president, with having a black president. So my hope in Finland, for Finland, is not people who look like me who came from Africa. My hope lies in the children, which are our children, my people who were born here, who are Finn, because I cannot claim the same Finnishness like my children would. They were born in Finland, they are Finns, and they're the ones whom I'm counting on to prove me wrong and make a drastic change in this country. That's why I keep doing what I do. I am pessimistic, but I don't stop because inside my pessimism, there is optimism. And my optimism is what wakes me up and pushes me to write and teach and train my kids to be racially conscious people.
What do you think Finnish people can learn from Cameroon?
Oh, there are lots of things we can learn from Cameroon. I mean, there is just there are lots of things culturally that we can learn from Cameroon, that the Finns can learn from Cameroon. For example, look at how I'm dressed.
Fantastically, I like the colors, amazing. The bag and the bracelets.
I make it my duty to celebrate my Africanness because whenever you see me, you find me dressed or have at least something that shows where I come from, that celebrates my culture. Because if I don't celebrate it, people would use it to insult me. So I need to be able to say, before you insult me, I want to let you know I'm proud of where I come from. I'm happy of where I've come from. I don't look at it as something that limits me. I want to be able to celebrate my Cameroonianness. I celebrate it every single day. And like I said, there are lots of things we can learn. And I think what also I endorse people to, or I encourage people to do is that, you know, we need to try to find the best from every people. Whether you're a Finnish person working with someone from a Somali background, someone from Rwanda, ask yourself, what's the best that I can get from this person? What's the best? What do I see this person that I like? What do I see from you as a Russian that I can take forward and live with and use that to benefit myself? You know, because we always add on other people's lives. That's why they say we are all social animals. So we are working and building together.
Yeah. Isn't globalism beautiful?
The way it is, no, but somehow yes. The way it is still beautiful. It's not. It's still disfavors people who look like me and who come from what globalization calls third world, underdeveloped, non-developed countries. So I think that it will be beautiful if there is equity embedded in how globalization is and how it is politically viewed. But without equity, globalization doesn't work. It has lots of weaknesses.
Yeah.
Equity is the key word.
Equity. Amin, the Lewis Carroll blitz. A few questions.
Yes.
Why is a raven like a writing desk?
Why is a raven like a writing desk? I'm not so sure.
Where can I find someone normal?
In yourself?
Make up rule 42. Create a rule 42.
Rule 42, I would say, we should replace equality with equity.
Replace equality with equity. What makes the world go round?
Love.
Who in this world are you?
I'm just a man. I am just a man who's trying to be just a man. I am a human being, and I'm trying to be a human being. I am working constantly towards being the best I can be for myself first, and for the people around me. I am fallible, like every other person, I believe.
The best way to explain is
demonstrate.
What would happen if everybody minded their own business?
The world would be a sad place.
One of the deep secrets of life is
we are always pursuing happiness.
What to do if you want to get to a place you want to be?
Be yourself.
I mean, thank you very much for the interview, and thank you very much for what you are doing. Thank you.
You are welcome.